Well, Iran's President Ebrahim Raisi has met with his Ugandan counterpart Yoweri Museveni in his second tour of his 3 visits to the continent. The trip to Africa represents a bid to diversify economic ties. Raisi's visit comes as Iran has been seeking to expand its foreign relations with developing nations. Earlier on Wednesday, he met Kenyan President William Ruto in the capital, Nairobi. The two agreed to work towards a trade balance, looking at higher exports of tea, coffee and meat. Raisi is expected to next fly to Zimbabwe to discuss trade and bilateral relations with Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa. He is the first Iranian president to visit the continent in more than a decade. Our correspondent Leon Sanyange joins us live now with more from Kampala. Thank you so much for joining us, Leon. The Iranian president has been in Kampala today. What more can you tell us about that visit?
Well, interestingly, just about now, President Ebrahim Raisi has just arrived at the venue where he's supposed to meet Iranian and Ugandan business community. It's, of course, a late meeting today. It's approximately probably 5 hours late from his itinerary. But nonetheless, he is here. Interestingly, he's had quite a very busy day. He got into Uganda just at about 2:30 local time. He met President Yoweri Museveni at the State House, and there they signed about 11 memorandum of understanding and cooperation agreements. Some still have to be reviewed, but the critical areas there were around education, technology, foreign investment, and just as well agriculture. And from that visit at about 6 p.m. or close to 7 p.m., he was driven to a demonstration farm about 27 kilometers from here, and just about now he has arrived to meet the Iranian and Ugandan community. It's very critical indeed for Iran in this particular situation. There's been a slump of engagement between Uganda and Iran. Looking at the numbers, Iran's exports to Uganda fall just below $2.5 million. Those are statistics from about 2021. COVID-19 indeed affected the relations between the two, trading relations between the two countries. But this engagement particularly is one that could kickstart stronger ties and stronger engagements and trading relations between Uganda and Iran.
Leon, thank you so much for all that. Leon Sanyange speaking to us from Kampala, Uganda. Well, before heading to Uganda, the Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi made a stop in Kenya, signaling a new beginning in relations with the continent. President Raisi signed bilateral agreements with his Kenyan counterpart, President William Ruto, in Nairobi. CGTN's Inex Sequoia has more.
The trip marks the first visit by an Iranian president to Africa in over a decade, as Iran seeks to diversify its economic ties amid crippling sanctions imposed by the United States. Originally scheduled to start on Tuesday, the tour was delayed by a day. The Iranian's head of state's visit to Nairobi is significant given the already existing trade ties between the two countries. Iranian and Kenyan ministers signed 5 significant memorandums of understanding covering areas such as industrialization, information technology, fisheries, livestock product, and investment promotion. Iran announced it will set up a motor vehicle assembly plant in the Kenyan coastal city of Mombasa. Iranian indigenous vehicles will be assembled at the new plant.
To manufacture an indigenous Iranian vehicle that has now been given the Kiswahili name Kifaru, meaning rhino. And I hope it will be a tough one, Your Excellency. I am confident that the project is unstoppable, as this name suggests.
These agreements aimed to enhance bilateral cooperation and strengthen economic partnerships between the two nations. After meeting President Ruto, President Raisi expressed his commitment to bolstering commercial ties with African countries. He described Africa as a continent of opportunities and acknowledged the need to increase trade volumes and economic exchanges between nations.
None of us are satisfied with the current volume of trade and the current economic exchange between countries.
Iran expects trade with African countries to exceed $2 billion this year, a significant increase compared to previous years. President Ruto emphasized the importance of facilitating the export of Kenyan tea, meat and other agricultural products to Iran and beyond, particularly to Central Asian countries.
It's also encouraging to note that trade volumes between our two countries have been on a steady upward trajectory. Kenya exported tea worth $28.4 million, about 4 billion shillings, to Tehran in the first quarter of this year, which is an 8-fold increase from sales for the same period last year.
The African tour by President Raisi follows Iran's intensified diplomatic efforts to engage with developing nations. In June, Raisi visited Venezuela, Cuba and Nicaragua. The last time an Iranian leader visited Africa was when the then President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad toured the continent back in 2013. Enoch Sikolia, CGTN, Nairobi, Kenya.